Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good, good. First a little programming note for the folks online. For the first time today, we're having an online new member tea. So that'll be at around 11 o'clock. So if you'd like to attend that, just stick around right after the announcements. We'll have a few minutes for you to make yourself a cup of tea and then come back and rejoin us. And Jamie Hedges and I will host the new member tea. And so if you're a new member and you're online, maybe you've become a member in the past year or two, or if you're even just thinking about becoming a member, you're welcome to join us. And we'll just talk a little bit about what it's like, what the paths are that are available here at MZMC. So, this morning I'm going to talk about the six realms. I've talked about the six realms quite a lot at various times, but it's been a long, long time since I gave an overview of this teaching. So I hope it's helpful. And it's going to be pretty straightforward. I'm going to start with some historical detail and some research, so bear with me if that's not your thing. And at the end, I'll get to some practical examples of how this teaching can help us. So to sum it up, the six realms is an ancient Buddhist teaching that describes our world and can help us to function in it. It's part of a larger scheme called the Bhava Chakra, or Wheel of Life. You may have seen it. It's a very colorful teaching tool, primarily Tibetan, but a lot of other traditions use it as well. And it has the 12-fold chain of dependent origination. It has the 3 poisons. It has a lot of stuff on there. And I don't have the time to go into all of that today. Just know that this is part of a larger teaching. I wanted to talk about the origin of the six realms teaching, but the more I got into it, the more I realized I would need a lot more research to be able to say something coherent about it. So I'll just say that I believe it goes back to the time of the Buddha and perhaps existed before then. I think it may have been borrowed from Hinduism before that. But what's important is, how can this teaching help us now? So we'll talk about that. So the six realms are known as Gati in Sanskrit. Literally, that means mode of existence. So these are modes of existence that beings find themselves in. And there are 6 of them. There are the hell dwellers. Yes, we do have a hell in Buddhism. And the Sanskrit word for that is Naraka. There are the hungry ghosts, or Preta, the animals, Tiryak, the humans, Manusya, the gods, Devas, and the fighting titans, or Asuras. So quite a colorful bunch. If you see this illustrated, it can be pretty wild and a lot of vivid stuff going on there. You see the gods up in the clouds with their heavenly instruments and their beautiful way of life, and these elaborate hells with all kinds of things going on. So they look pretty specific and well-defined. So the question is, are we to take these literally in the sense that they are actual places? The Shambhala Dictionary says they are various forms of existence within which rebirth takes place. Edward Kanzi says, the merit one has acquired in the past decides the place where one is reborn. So there is that view that certain actions in this life can lead me to be reborn in another realm. If I don't behave in this life, I come back as an animal. And that view depends on an acceptance of rebirth. I think many folks here do not accept rebirth in a literal sense, or at least may be agnostic about it. And I think the much more useful view, and more of a Mahayana view, is that these 6 realms, each of them represents a state of mind, not a place or a rebirth. And because they're states of mind, we constantly migrate from one realm to another. We may be in the God realm in the morning and the hell realm by afternoon. We may move in and out moment to moment. More than one of these might be present in one vivid moment, especially in deep meditation. So there's a book on Tibetan Buddhism by Reginald Ray called Indestructible Truth, and he's talking about the hell realm, and he says, we may regard a hell realm as an actual place somewhere in the cosmos where we might literally incarnate as a hell being in some future existence, or we may understand it as an interior mental state that we might experience in this very human lifetime. Nevertheless, in both cases, a hell realm is a projection of our own mind as a result of our own actions, and therefore it can be said that we have created it and we maintain it, although we are generally not conscious of doing so. So the good news is if we create it, maybe we can do something to uncreate it. So I'm open-minded about both of these views, but I find the view of the realms as psychological states much more useful. And when I look at it this way, the 6 realms are really alive for me as a teaching and have been for really a long time. So I'd like to explain each of the 6 realms to you. There are 3 dismal realms and 3 higher realms. We'll start with the dismal, we'll work our way up. So the dismal realms are animal, hell, and hungry ghost. So the first is the animal realm. And you know, animals seem pretty nice. I think it would be really nice to be a duck or a squirrel or something. But in Buddhism, the animal realm is seen as a lower realm where beings are just guided by their need for survival. They only follow their original imprinting. All they care about is satisfying their bodily needs. They can't change and absolutely cannot appreciate the Dharma. So people get into this realm from time to time. If our survival is threatened, we can revert to this realm. There are places so extreme that you can lose touch with the idea that there can be a better way. And the animal realm, of course, can come upon us in less dramatic ways as well. We can just get really selfish and really grabby sometimes and kind of realize, oh, I'm being a little animalistic here. So before going on to the other realms, I want to talk about this. There is an appropriate practice for each realm. And there's not a lot in the literature about this, but I did find some things which I think are really interesting. There's a Dharma talk by Sojun Roshi Mel Weitzman from the 2003 Berkeley Zen Center newsletter called Buddhism and War, the 6 Realms and What Bodhisattvas Do in Each One. And he says, in each one of these 6 realms is a bodhisattva. The place of the bodhisattva in each one of these realms is to educate people, to enlighten people, to make them aware of nirvana. So the challenge for the bodhisattva is to find the appropriate way to teach in each realm, to find the appropriate practice for the beings there whose vision is limited by their present circumstances. Menzies in Buddha, Radiant Awakening says, each realm contains the form of a Buddha, each carrying an implement representing the appropriate means to arouse the inhabitants from the torpid state. So I've seen pictures of this. It looks like in the animal realm, the bodhisattva is holding a book, which is a symbol of wisdom, which is what the animals need. And I have a chart, or I had it at one time, I believe from Diane Martin, showing the 6 realms and the 6 appropriate practices, which are identical to the 6 paramitas, for those of you who know about that teaching. 2 of them are switched from what Mel Weitzman said. The chart says that the bodhisattva teaches wisdom in the God realm and meditation in the animal realm, but Mel Weitzman has these 2 switched, and I haven't been able to resolve this contradiction. But I think there's a lot we can learn just from the idea that our practice needs to vary according to the state that we're in. So this tells us that we need to be really self-aware so we know what state we're in, and we need to be constantly skillful and creative in approaching our practice. And oftentimes we get an ideal about how our practice should be, and we get a plan, And I talk to people and they say, I've been doing this thing consistently for so long and it's not working anymore. And I say, vary it, vary it. Be creative. So back to the animal realm. Mel Weitzman says that in the animal realm, the teaching is perfection of wisdom, prajna paramita, because that is what the animals lack. They don't know there's a better way. They're totally stuck in material satisfaction. And so this makes sense. If I'm trapped by my physical needs, my mind is just going to get obsessed with that. I'm not going to have wisdom. And the only way out of that is to realize that there is a better way, to find out that being totally devoted to my physical needs is not the way to happiness. It's that light bulb moment, this light bulb going off over my head. And it will always happen eventually that when we're in that animal realm, maybe we're gorging ourselves or we run out of stuff to gorge ourselves on. So we're desperately seeking what we need, but we finally see ourselves and we say, wait a minute, this is not right. So what we need is wisdom. And that's why we come here to Zen Center instead of pursuing our animal instincts, say by going out to sketchy places. We try to do better things. So second is the hell realm. We could say hell realms because they are very numerous. There's this elaborate scheme, essentially borrowed from Hinduism. And there are 8 main hells, each one surrounded by 16 subsidiary hells. There are hot hells, cold hells. There are hells where meat eaters are tortured by animals. These are not permanent. These are places of torment and retribution for bad deeds. But once your negative karma is exhausted, rebirth in another realm is possible. So they're more like Dante's purgatory than they are like his hell. You can get out of there. And we can fall into hell. It can happen because of exterior forces. Something terrible happens to us. We get into hells of our own making through worry, anger, and fear. Sometimes we'll get into a situation, a bad thing happens, and we just keep going over and over it in our mind, and we just can't stop. That's hell. That's hell. It gets to the point where the mental activity is worse than the original difficulty. And the appropriate practice in hell is patience. It might seem almost cruel at first to say to beings in hell, well, just be patient, it'll pass. Just endure the torment, just a few more kalpas. But really, it's not like this. It's like when we are in hell, things can be so bad that we think there's never going to be a way out. If we're prone to be anxious or depressed, we can sometimes in the midst of these states, we feel like we'll never get out of here. It's always going to be like this. But if we've gone through this enough times and we've really paid attention, we realize that these stages are not permanent. We'll come out of them. At least we're going to come up for some air at some point. And then we'll have moments, even in the midst of all this, where we see clearly. So patience makes all the difference, because when you have patience, you know that hell is a temporary state. And instead of only wishing it were different, only thinking about escaping, you can say, okay, I'm in hell. This is awful. I don't like this, but I'm going to have to endure it for a while. I'm going to have to feel it. In a way, I'm going to have to start fighting it. Stop wasting my time thinking how much better it would be in the God realm and just be here and kind of process it. So the third dismal realm is the hungry ghost realm. How many have ever seen a picture of a hungry ghost or know what they are, what they're like? Yeah, quite a few of you. So hungry ghosts are insatiable because they have enormous bellies, like huge, and their mouth is no larger than the eye of a needle. So they are always hungry and they are always desperate. And they're subject to various other tortures as well. The descriptions are really creative. The word pus seems to reoccur a lot. You don't want to know about this. But they live in this narcissistic realm, according to Diane Martin. They can never get enough. Greed, envy, and desire lead to rebirth in this realm. And you can get into this realm if you are obsessed with wealth, if you have an addiction, if love turns to obsession. All you can think about is this person you love, and it totally controls your life. And eventually it's not even love anymore. It's desperate need. So Mel Weitzman said that the Bodhisattva in this realm teaches letting go and generosity, because you stay in this realm as long as you're hung up on your own needs. You've got to let go of that. You have to get out of yourself and be kind to others. That is the way out. And sometimes helping others seems like a chore, but it can be the very best thing that we can do for ourselves, because it takes us outside of that narcissism and that self-obsession. So now we get to the three higher realms. There are the devas, or the God realm, the positive God realm. There are the fighting titans, which is the negative God realm, and then there's the human realm. So the God realm, the gods live a life of ease. They get everything they want, or everything they think they want. Kanzi says, their material constitution is more refined than ours. Their emotions are less coarse. Their lifespan is longer. They are less subject to suffering than we. They are not immortal, because when their good karma runs out, they must leave the God realm. They are like Olympian gods, in some ways more like angels than like gods. So it sounds really nice, and we kind of all want to be there, right? But there is a problem with the God realm. The gods are so caught up in their easy, shallow existence, and they live for such a long time, that they just want more of the same. They can't appreciate the Dharma. Being at ease all the time is what we all desire, but would we really want that forever? I don't think so. The Buddha was born into the God realm. He was born into a palace where he was shielded from suffering, and he got everything he wanted, and he became depressed, and it was not enough. Our society yearns for this realm. We want to be stars. We want to be rich. We want to be famous. And it can't last. So the appropriate teaching in the God realm is meditation. It allows one to see that there is something deeper, something better. And if I can meditate here and be self-aware here, maybe the God realm is not going to end so suddenly. And one could ask, well, why not let these people who are happy with their shallow lives go on with it? Why teach them meditation? And the answer is that a life of shallow pleasure is really not satisfying. And you will really be better if you can look at the reality of the situation. It's a phony kind of ease. It's not real happiness. So next is the fighting Titan realm, sometimes known as the negative God realms. And these are also celestial beings, but they love to fight. They're these furious spirits, and they continually fight with the gods. They love to stir things up. They love to create conflict and chaos and war. And I've always been kind of surprised that this realm is included in the three positive realms, because it doesn't sound good to me. It's violent, it's mean. But I think if we do think of these as psychological states, we can see that people can draw a lot of satisfaction in this realm. They can enjoy fighting. People do that. They get on a roll, and they get kind of intoxicated with it. Creatures are never happy in the animal realm, the hell realm, or the hungry ghost realm. But people can get really excited about fighting. And like all realms, it has its limitations. It's not where we want to stay. We get into this realm when we get really angry. And the appropriate practice here is the precepts, basic morality, because that's the thing the fighting titans lack. They're fighting for fun. The Bodhisattva teaches them not to kill or steal or harm others through negative words. In the case of our society, it's up to us to tell our leaders to take a moral course, to tell them that killing is wrong. I think sometimes the Bodhisattva in this realm is a little stern, as in, knock it off. But the sternness of the Bodhisattva is a tricky thing. Sternness is not the same as anger. To be effective, the Bodhisattva in this realm has to be free of anger. We can't really tell our leaders to stop fighting if we haven't spent some time working on the fighting titan in ourselves. So we should be direct in saying this is wrong, but we need to do it from a place of compassion. We can't stop fighting by fighting. So finally, there is the human realm. So this is our realm, or at least our default realm. We visit them all, but we are humans. And the human realm may not seem so great sometimes, but here's the kicker. The human realm is the best realm of all in this scheme, because it is the only one in which spiritual liberation is possible. This world, with all of its troubles, is the best possible world because we have the capacity for liberation. And people often say the reason for that, it is balanced between pleasure and pain. We have both, and that helps us. The gods have so much pleasure that they will never be interested in spiritual liberation. The lower beings have so much pain that they will never be able to even conceive of spiritual liberation. And I think another reason that the human realm is best, this is my take on this, we have a capacity as humans to see the other realms as we move in and out of them. Each realm contains all the other realms because nothing exists in isolation, but the human realm is special because in this realm we can see them all. An animal can't imagine what it's like to be a god, but we humans, we have this process of moving in and out, and we can accept when we're in a certain realm, we can be fully there, we can do the appropriate practice, we can move into another realm, all with awareness. We look pain in the face, we look pleasure in the face. It seems to me that the human realm is the only realm where we can truly feel gratitude. The only realm where we can be genuinely compassionate and love unequivocally. I don't think that happens in any of those other realms. It's the only realm where we can accept the possibility that we can be liberated in this very lifetime. So the appropriate practice in the human realm, according to Diane Martin's chart, it is exertion or effort. And I think that really makes sense. As humans, we put in effort. Effort and well-being seem to correlate. They certainly do for me. The more effort I put in, the more well-being I have. Not always, but it tends to happen. So just make effort. But Mel Weitzman says the appropriate practice is just to be a human. Just see and be able to deal with your own greed, anger, and self-delusion, as well as your higher qualities. Don't expect to become free of them, just live them. That's liberation. So if we step back a bit, I think all of this is very encouraging for our practice, and we need encouragement. This path is not easy. This teaching tells us that all of our experiences have value. We don't need, and we don't even want, to be happy all the time. We want to fully engage in the mix. We want to live with awareness. So who can say whether a crisis is good or bad? A crisis can bring us to liberation. Another encouraging thing about the human realm is that we know that everything will pass. Pleasant and unpleasant states are both impermanent. If I'm having a bad day, instead of saying, I hate this, this is wrong, I can say, I accept this as part of the process, and dealing with this too is my practice. And when I say that, something changes. That's the beginning of the rotation to another realm. In every crisis, we reach a point of acceptance where we stop fighting the reality of our situation. We begin to work our way out of it. So in a sense, being in hell is as perfect and complete as being in the heavenly realm. This is living beyond all distinctions. The desire to get out of an unpleasant realm may motivate us to come to Zen Center, and that's wonderful. That's the virtue of the human realm. But once we've been here a while, we begin to see that larger view. Maybe heaven is hell. Maybe hell is heaven. So the appropriate practice is not so much a means to get out of the realm. It will take you out of the realm, but maybe it's a full expression of our true nature while we are in that realm. And so to complete this and talk a little bit about how it might work in our lives, I've kind of made up a story here, and it's about a guy who's maybe kind of a younger version of me, but not totally. There's some variations here. So he's a guy with an established meditation practice, but he's not totally self-aware. He's got some work to do on that front. And movement from realm to realm, as I said, can happen. It can happen in any order at any time. But let's imagine a day where he moves through all 6 realms. So let's say he wakes up in the God realm. The previous day, he attended a half-day retreat. It was really wonderful. He felt great. The teacher said, hey, you know, you did a great job sitting. In the afternoon, he goes for a run. He feels good physically. In the evening, he's with his family, and everything seems harmonious. All day, people seem to be praising him. It feels really good. Maybe it goes to his head just a little bit. Yeah, maybe I am pretty great, he's thinking. So he wakes up in the God realm, and he has heard at a Dharma talk that the appropriate practice in the God realm is to meditate. But he's thinking, no, I'm not going to meditate this morning. Why would I meditate? I'm in the God realm. I'm just going to enjoy myself. I'm not going to take that 30 minutes and deprive myself. So later that morning, he's driving in a car with his partner, and a couple of things happen. First, his partner gives him some bad news. Tells him, you know that family thing last night? Actually, there's more to it. And things aren't so harmonious. And actually, there's this big problem, and we're going to have to deal with it. So that kind of throws him off. He's thinking, okay, but I want to stay in the God realm. I can deal with that. But then he starts feeling kind of squirrely. He felt so good that morning, he jumped right into activity. He forgot to eat breakfast. And he's one of these people who really crashes when he doesn't get enough food. Some people call it hangry, you know, angry and hungry. So he slips pretty rapidly into the animal realm. And he says to his partner, and this has really happened to me before, I say to my wife, okay, we've got to stop at the next convenience store. We got to get something to eat, and I don't care what it is. And she says, oh, let's go to this restaurant. I say, no, we've got to stop at the next convenience store, and we've got to get something to eat, and I don't care what it is. And I get really intense about it, you know. So he does that. He grabs the first thing he sees, he buys it, he eats it. Okay, he's recovering a bit of equanimity. He has a feeling of unease, but he doesn't quite get that he's fallen into the animal realm. He just thinks, oh, this is the God realm gone wrong, but I can get back to that. But the appropriate practice in the animal realm is wisdom. That would be to say to himself, I didn't eat, I crashed, I'll recover, I'll be okay. I just need to start making some effort again. But instead he says to himself that he's just got to get back to feeling good again. There's no wisdom there. So he starts fighting the present situation. He gets a little sharp with his partner. He tries to find a way to blame his partner for his bad mood. And now he's entered the fighting Titan realm. Remember, it's a positive realm. He starts kind of enjoying it. He's back in the God realm, but it's a negative God realm. He's high and mighty now and filled with righteousness. Look what you did to me. And the appropriate practice in the fighting Titan realm is observing the precepts, but he doesn't do that. He's too focused on himself. But then eventually, you know, his partner stops talking to him. It's a long, silent drive home. It's pretty painful. He gets home. And it kind of hits him that everything really has fallen apart. He's so disappointed. He realizes, he thinks, I'll never, ever get back to heaven. And he starts thinking about it and obsessing about it. And now he's in hell. And the appropriate practice here is patient, but he's not very patient. He just goes off by himself and he broods. And he thinks, I'll do anything to cure the pain. And he has a history of addiction, and right now he just feels like giving in. Now, this is the hungry ghost realm. And the appropriate practice here is generosity. And this time he does the appropriate thing, because we need a happy ending here, right? This time he does the appropriate thing. Something reminds him of generosity to all beings. Maybe he looks down at his wrist and he sees his mala beads there, and he remembers, oh, I put those on to remind me of my vow to care for all beings, and I do love all beings. Or maybe he's thinking about his family some more, and he's just thinking with genuine care about those people in his family who are suffering, instead of thinking about how it's just going to negatively impact him. Or maybe he's thinking about his friends who have supported him with his addictive tendencies. But somehow, deep in his despair, he connects with other beings, and it takes him out of himself. And it takes him out of the hungry ghost realm into the human realm. The human realm where we accept all things, and the appropriate practice is effort. And he begins to make effort again. It is evening by now. He apologizes to his partner. He goes and he sits down and he meditates and he says, okay, I'm ready to do this thing. So he's ready to act in the human realm. And this day may have seemed a little dismal, but I just want to stress that in the human realm, there is great joy as well as great pain. And now he's going to be open to feeling it again. And maybe with his new self-awareness, things may even out a little bit. And maybe tomorrow won't be so dramatic. So that is an example. And that's what I have to say about the 6 realms. And we have a few minutes here, and I'd love to hear from some of you. Yes.
Oh, okay. He has a question.
Over
Yes.
here.
Where would nirvana fit in the 6 realms?
Nirvana is kind of based on the early Buddhist idea, or one way to interpret the idea of nirvana is there's kind of a progression from samsara to nirvana. Sometimes these are referred to as the 6 realms of samsara, meaning these are the 6 realms of this sort of tired earthly existence. And there's an idea that if you do practice correctly, you can sort of get to nirvana where that stuff won't be going on. But the newer view, the Mahayana view, the Zen view, is really that samsara and nirvana are the same. That instead of trying to escape the 6 realms, we fully inhabit the 6 realms and try to do the appropriate practices there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the question. Yes, Leslie.
Ted, thank you for the talk. A lot to think about there. It was really good.
Thank you.
The 6 realms kind of reminds me of a study I did on the 6 archetypes that are pretty common. And the thing I learned with that is that the archetypes aren't bad, the realms aren't bad, it's just when you get stuck in them that they start to cause pain. And it made me think of when you talk about the God realm that likes to fight, I think about that if you're an activist and you need to get out there and make a difference, that might be a way to healthily inhabit that realm for a few minutes. As long as you don't get stuck in it,
Right.
it becomes a way to deal with, to be of service. And so I try to think of them that way, although the hungry ghost one really, that's the one that I'm like, I'm not sure how that could be healthy. Except, if you want peace and you want to keep fighting, I don't know. But anyway, great talk, and it gave me a lot to think about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Dan.
Soon into your talk, I remembered a lot of Buddhist teachings about death and dying. And in the late 1990s, I was at Rocky Mountain Dharma Center where two shamans were teaching a weekend. Two shamans from East Africa were teaching. One of them was Subunfu, and I forget the other name. And there were 4 ceremonies, and I want to focus on the one that impressed me the most. In Africa, each person would dig their grave and stay there all night. But it was fall, and in Colorado, you can't stay in the ground all night. So what we did is we paired off, and we helped each other dig a grave during the day. And then one of us, at random, I think, would assist the other at night by helping them crawl down into this grave, like at an angle, so your head is above the soil. And one of your responsibilities was to keep offering water to drink. The other is to shovel some coals onto the top of the soil so you can stay somewhat warm. And as soon as people started feeling they're actually in the grave, many people started crying because they realized this is like the end. And we had different styles of experiencing it, and I felt quite calm. And in the morning, because I was the second one, I wanted to use my strength to, work with death. So instead of waiting for someone to dig me out, I wiggled my way out of the grave. And it was a very meaningful experience to think so clearly about the fact that you're going to die.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sometimes in various Buddhist traditions, there are some pretty intense practices that we do in order to help us wake up and to help sort of look at all of the realms. Aaron, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I think I sort of heard you say that the ultimate goal or state is spiritual liberation. Could you say some more about that, like either define it or talk about what it is or is not?
Spiritual liberation is being awake. When we say awake, it's kind of focusing on the individual, like we would say, if I, Ted, am awake, that's a state I have. But really, awakeness is a state of going beyond the self, of realizing our connection with all beings, of really not being separated from the planet and other people and
Did you see Maya texted wondering if she could use the garage at some point or just to drop off?
other
I just didn't know the info.
I would say that the spiritual liberation has to do with liberation from the burdens of self. That doesn't mean we have to give up everything about the self. That doesn't mean we erase ourselves. But it's that thing about not being stuck on our own personal hang-ups and being allowed to sort of move with them and past them. And the way to do that is to give up our own point of view, to sort of radically see how this individual self is in some senses an illusion. In some senses, no, we'll always keep this personal self, and no matter how awake we become, we'll still be our exciting, alive individual selves with needs and wants, but we can also deeply penetrate reality and see that there's another layer in which we're not there at all. So I hope that's helpful. Yeah, okay, anyone else? Ginny?
What does one do to practice wisdom?
Yeah, does wisdom naturally arise, or do we need to learn wisdom from others? Probably a combination of both. I think studying the teachers and learning from our friends is really essential, because you need many points of view in order to have wisdom. But also, I think if we practice deeply, I think wisdom will arise, because our perspective will shift from the perspective of our own needs to the perspective of the needs of all things that are interconnected.
I think I ask because I find myself spending a fair amount of time in the animal realm lately, and I wonder when I notice that, like in the moment, what should I do?
In the moment. Well, it's kind of that simple process of saying, hey, I'm in the animal realm. I realize that. I see what's going on. I see how I got here. I know what it feels like, and I can allow myself to feel this without indulging it and without thinking about it too much. I can be present with this as it is.
Sounds kind of like practicing mindfulness.
Like practicing mindfulness. Well, yeah, because it's mindfulness of your state, mindfulness of your animalistic state, mindfulness of your actions and what they reveal, and probably, physical feeling, what is in your body that is expressing these animal urges. And if you can be present with those feelings rather than the thoughts that arise from those feelings, then you're really with them. So I would say, bodily awareness would be a big part of the wisdom needed at that time. Thank you. Yes?
Yeah, I can add to her question. How does meditation cultivate wisdom?
Meditation, it eliminates distractions. For one thing, it can help us to have a clear mind, because maybe we're focusing on our breath and we're not bouncing around all of the time. Meditation can lower the barriers between self and other, and it means that our perspective, our mental activity is coming from a different place, not so much from a place of need.
Okay, and then follow up. So in Theravada Buddhism, we have a phrase that goes, there is no meditation without wisdom, and there is no wisdom without meditation. I guess, what's your take on that quote?
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that recently. Yeah, I think that's correct. We have to have wisdom. If we don't have wisdom, our meditation could be of the wrong kind. We might be sitting there, we think we're meditating, but really we're just indulging in fantasy or something like that. And wisdom without meditation, I think, could get kind of cold. So, yeah. Okay, one more comment. Thank you, Jessica. Yes, you.
This is somewhat unformed, but I just thought of it. The
people say that wisdom comes with age,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is an interesting comment, and I do think to some extent that's true, and it's lived experience that contributes to that. But I actually think more recently, as I get deeper into Buddhist practice, I think it comes from understanding your experience, being aware in the moment of being a hungry ghost or being in the animal realm, and bringing your lessons from the Dharma to that, awareness,
Mhm,
acceptance, and action. And that, to me, seems to be wisdom, lived experience with this layer of understanding what you're experiencing and hopefully bringing something productive.
Yes, it's going through these things with awareness again and again. And as we age, we have more opportunities to do that. So maybe wisdom comes. But very young folks can be very wise too if they pay attention in that way. Yeah. Okay, great discussion. Thank you, everyone. Now, I'd like to turn this over to our esteemed Doan, John.